Hi, my name is Frank Quintieri, and I lead the North American Patient Engagement Team for PTC's Neurology Group. I'm here today to talk to the 2020 Strive Award recipient, Rich Horgan. Rich is the founder and president of Cure Rare Disease, a Boston-based patient advocacy group.
Absolutely, Frank. Thank you so much for having us, and grateful winners of this fantastic award from PTC.
Rich, can you tell us a little bit about Cure Rare Disease?
I can. So Cure Rare Disease is a 501c3 organization based out of Boston, Massachusetts. The catalyst behind Cure Rare Disease was my younger brother, Terry, who suffers from a rare mutation of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Terry, like a lot of other patients with Duchenne, have lacked treatments, especially being an older patient who's non-ambulatory for many years. And so in thinking about the personal situation, I started Cure Rare Disease as an effort to accelerate promising, really groundbreaking science to enable that to get to the clinic faster for these patients who, as we know in the rare disease field, time is the greatest enemy. And so by shortening the timeline from going to bench to bedside, we hope to be able to help improve the lives of folks suffering from Duchenne at first, and then eventually more broadly other neuromuscular and rare diseases.
Now, can you tell us a little more about the DMD Student Education and Life Science Immersion program that you have?
Of course, yeah, happy to, Frank. So our Life Science Immersion program is something we feel is quite innovative. Oftentimes when we speak with families, we hear a lack of understanding or a lack of knowledge about how drugs are truly developed. What does it take, families ask, to go from bench to bedside? Why does it take so long? What are the processes involved? And so our goal with this program is truly to bring enlightenment to that aspect of drug development. Families are watching their kids get sicker and in worse condition as time goes on. And we feel that as though by introducing them to academic labs where real science is happening day in and day out, we feel as though we can demystify this process. And instead of it being a black box, we feel as though we can educate patients so that they're able to truly understand, not at a PhD level necessarily, of course, but at least have a high level understanding of what it takes to take a drug from bench to bedside. What are the processes involved? What are some of the challenges? And more than that, they can meet the faces of people who are working directly on Duchenne muscular dystrophy, some of whom are very well known in the field and are working hand in hand to help complete this journey, really. And so the program involves touring small groups of families in different academic labs. We're fortunate to have a number of partnerships with academic facilities across the United States who are willing and open to introducing groups to science, who are able to explain science in a way that's really accessible and graspable by the average everyday person, myself included. And so I figure if you can explain science to me, then you can certainly explain science to a family who has a loved one that's affected by a rare disease. And that's really the essence of the program, is to demystify the complicated process that we know as drug development.
Now, how important was winning the Strive program to you and the organization?
Oh, it's absolutely important. I think one of the things that we really pride ourselves on at Cure Rare Disease is our degree of collaboration. Our goal here is to work with partners who are really industry leaders, whether academic leaders, whether industry leaders, or anybody else in the ecosystem, right? I look at the healthcare value chain as a big collaboration amongst drug development, academia, patients, regulators, as well as the reimbursement. And so they're all a critical piece of this puzzle. Now, collaborations like this between Cure Rare Disease and PTC Therapeutics are a great example of how two companies working together can affect very positive change. By educating and illuminating families about this drug development process, we feel as though we can provide a great degree of comfort and understanding to those families. Now, with the collaboration of PTC, this is something that's especially important because we're able to magnify this message on a broader scale between our two companies and the reach that we collectively have. And also, of course, with the support that PTC is providing, we can make sure and enable a greater outreach and a greater effect of the program that otherwise may not have been possible. So it's a very big impact winning this PTC Strive Award, and we're very grateful.
Great, we're happy to be part of it. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Now, this year's brought many challenges with the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdowns. How have you guys been able to stay in contact with your communities?
enough can't be said about the challenges of 2020. I think we'll all be looking forward to getting quickly to the next year. But nonetheless, I think your question brings a very real theme of challenges faced by families, organizations, and everybody in between with the rise of COVID. What we've seen in being able to keep in touch with families is that families want to hear from us collectively, whether that's a company providing them medicine or advocacy or education. People want the comfort that their organizations that they frequently speak with, communicate with, rely on are still there. I think in this storm that we find ourselves in, being COVID, that the consistent and continuous messaging from organizations like Cure a Disease or PTC gives families comfort. Right? There's a lot of uncertainties going on right now, whether that's where our jobs are or the state of the country. But we can do our little part to stay in touch with our stakeholders, our patients, our researchers, and everybody in between, to assure them that Cure a Disease is here and will continue to be here despite a pandemic. And we will make it through this, and we will be here in the next day.
When you do have those communications, what do you find most useful to share and have a two-way communication and dialogue on?
I think one of the things that we find most effective in communicating to families is our blogs, actually. So Cure a Disease invites families and Cure a Disease families to share their experience in this journey that is rare disease, whether it's Duchenne muscular dystrophy or another rare disease. I think everyone's journey is very unique, and we all have lessons to learn from one another of what worked for what person and when. And so by sharing and highlighting these stories of struggles that families have gone through, or great accomplishments they've made, or challenges they've encountered in everyday life, we really are able to connect with audiences on a deeper level. And so our stakeholders and our patient families have responded quite positively to the blogs, as well as to our social media messaging, really trying to convey relevant and important topics to families at a time that there's a lot of uncertainty. I think a great example of this is a recent Cure a Disease blog that was done on receiving clinical care during COVID, and what does that look like. We know from experience that some care centers will only see patients in the immediate state or the immediate area. A good example is at the University of Massachusetts. As of July, the center was seeing patients within the Northeast. And so my family's experience in visiting the clinic in July is very different from a family coming from Arizona, for instance, where they have to do a remote visit. And so questions like these that aren't necessarily on the forefront of major media outlets are still questions that families have to grapple with. And it's very important that we provide them at least guidance surrounding this. It may not be a perfect answer. It may not be an answer at all in these times where we find ourselves oftentimes collectively between a rock and a hard place. But at least by providing examples and perspectives, we hope to empower the community during these especially turbulent times.
Yeah, very important. Thanks, Rich. Now, in summary, as we wrap up, what change or impact do you hope to have on the Duchenne community with using the Strive Award that you've received?
I think change can take shape in a number of different ways, right? We ultimately hope to change the perspective of families to, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, really demystify what it takes to bring a drug from the academic bench to the patient's bedside. We hope to really empower families to answer and to ask, the tough questions. Because it's through the tough questions that we can find great answers, and we can uncover information that we may not have been able to uncover otherwise if not for those questions. And so ultimately, I think one of the most powerful things the community can do is ask smart questions and to ask good questions about critical factors regarding life science and drug development. And so we at least hope to pique the curiosity enough for families to ask those questions and to find more information. And I think by informing, we can reduce the level of uncertainty and in turn increase the amount of hope that these families feel that there are life-saving therapeutics coming down the pipe for they and their loved ones. And most importantly, at the end of the day, that's why any of us are here, is really to help the patient and make sure that the patient at the end of the day has the clarity, has the insight, has the confidence that they're being cared for, that they are at the top of the mind of every organization, Cure a Disease and PTC alike. And so ultimately that is one of the greatest things about this partnership, is that we can affect positive change for these families and reach the finish line sooner.
Great, thanks Rich, great work.
Absolutely, thank you very much.